Hey everyone, Blake Lovell, Southeastern 14, back here with more. I'm about to say SEC basketball transfers, but let's be honest. It's Arkansas basketball transfers. Like, that's all we talk about anymore, apparently, on this channel, because the Must Bus decided not to stop for gas. They kept on rolling right to another destination, and they're picking up another player from the AAC, and that is Jeremiah Davenport from Cincinnati. He is the latest addition for the Arkansas Razorbacks heading into next season. And we're talking about a team here, as we said, that's been very active in the transfer portal. That is always very active in the transfer portal. And now, Tremont Mark from Houston, Khalif Battle from Temple. Now it's on to Cincinnati to pick up Davenport. So there's your group of three from the American Conference, and they are all joining the Razorbacks on the Must Bus here moving forward. Let's talk about what Davenport brings to the table. I mean, honestly, let's just say, like, these days, I feel like it's eat, sleep, talk about Arkansas basketball transfers, repeat. Like, that's what I do. That is, Southeastern 14, we cover the entire SEC, but man, we've really been covering Arkansas basketball here lately, and we appreciate you guys as always. What does Davenport bring to the table? Well, averaged 9.1 points per game last season, 4.2 rebounds per game, the 4-year guy at Cincinnati. He's played, he's going to add experience because he has played basically 26-ish minutes the past 3 seasons. So once again, I'm going to repeat myself, but this is what happens because it seems like there's a clear theme in what Muss is bringing in. Guys that are experienced, guys that can add size, because you're talking about a 6'7", guard/forward guy who can play multiple positions. So you talk about the size aspect and what that brings to the table. That's a huge plus, I think, for this Arkansas team to add someone like Davenport to the mix. You guys know my thoughts on just SEC teams, and especially if you're needing to be a team that can make shots from outside, you need some of that length, given what you're going to go up against defensively in this league. And so a 6'7" guy who can play multiple positions, you'll take it. What else does he bring? Well, stop me if you've heard this one before. You got a guy who can make some threes, and that is another aspect that I think is very important for this Arkansas team. As I've talked about, it's a big piece of the puzzle, and we've mentioned how much of a separator that can be in the SEC, where a lot of teams don't shoot it very well. League finished last among conferences in conference play in three-point shooting. So, those are all those things that you combine together, and now you've got someone like Davenport here. When you look at the numbers, and boy, the numbers are pretty impressive. 203 made three-pointers the past 3 seasons. He's made 83 and 72 respectively the past 2 seasons. Shot at about 36%, 21-22. Shot about 33% overall this past season. But as I'm saying here, I know those numbers don't sound 36%, 33%, right? You may say, well, give me a guy that's got 40% from 3, something like that. Again, keep in mind the SEC as a whole in conference play, finishing last among conferences, the league shot 32% overall from 3. And of course, if you're an Arkansas fan, you know what Arkansas shot from 3 last season. Shot about 31%. So these are guys that just statistically on paper can help upgrade that category. Now, not saying they're going to come in and shoot as good or better than they did at their previous stop. But when we talk about these transfers, guys that have been able to prove they can make shots, that is one of the encouraging things I think that you look at. We talked about that with Battle. We talked about it with Davenport, obviously Mark, all the other guys. Like, we mentioned their scoring ability and what they bring to the table, but just kind of that proven history of what they've been able to do from that standpoint. And I think that's encouraging heading into, this relationship now between Davenport in Arkansas. So he adds more shooting ability. That's a nice thing to have. Someone else and options, right? It's kind of what we said before. There have been some teams that, hey, you've had one guy that can knock down a shot. You had a couple guys can knock down shots. But if you just have, multiple guys on the roster that you feel like you can turn to that can make those shots, at least give you something from outside that just adds a dynamic, quite frankly, to a team that did not consistently have that dynamic last season. And I feel like I'm repeating myself, but this is clearly one of the objectives for this Arkansas staff. They have understood the areas they need to upgrade, and I think this is one. And also, of course, it comes in the mix. You're having to replace a lot of players. And I know people are already asking the question, what does this mean for Davis? What does this mean for Walsh? can't answer that. I mean, I'm too busy trying to figure out, what's the next transfer going to be with Arkansas because it seems like they never stop at this point. But yes, roster wise, kind of who you're losing. You start to do the math. There are only so many spots available, but so this is kind of a picture of what next season is going to look like as you're adding more. You kind of understand what that may or may not mean for other guys on the roster next season. So we'll see what happens with everything else and how that plays out. That will obviously play itself out soon enough. But something else that Davenport can do well, he makes free throws. And as I said, you talk about upgrades, right? Guy who really shot at about 77% from three from the line his first 3 seasons at Cincinnati. But this past season jumps up to shooting 83% from the line. So another good free throw shooter on a team that shot about 70% as a team last season. So that is something else that will help there in that regard. So, yeah, I mean, I feel like this is the theme, right, guys? Like you're adding guys with proven scoring ability, but you're also adding guys with scoring ability in areas that have been a weakness. And I think that's important for this Arkansas team, especially coming off of last season. And really, I mean, let's call it what it is too. Even the past couple seasons, this has not been a great shooting team. And I know you Arkansas fans, I've heard it. Like said in the comments, we talked about it before. Been calling for how do we improve overall as a team shooting wise? Because like I said, 317th nationally last year in shooting, 316th nationally the year before shooting, 30.4% that season. Now it still worked out, right? Still able to get to the second weekend of the NCAA tournament. But just we've seen the difference that can make. And like I said, it's not just, hey, it's nice to have a 3-point shooter. Having 3-point shooting in the SEC where it seems like that's been a struggle for a lot of teams. But I will say this too. It's not just Arkansas going out and adding shooting this offseason. There have been other teams. Florida's adding shooting. Auburn's adding shooting. Other teams that have clearly made that a big priority to kind of go out and try to find that missing element that a lot of teams have had in this league. So Davenport, a high number of shots made. I like that. Not even necessarily looking at the percentages. A guy who has made 205 threes overall, made 2 his first season as a freshman at Cincinnati, but he's made 203 the past 3 seasons, 83 and 72, as I said earlier, the past 2 respectively. So yes, I think you like that about him. Obviously can rebound a bit as well. So kind of versatile player. I think that's probably the best wording to use. Seems like a pretty versatile type guy, which, Muss has done well with those kind of guys and sort of finding the right role for them, putting them in the right spot. And I do like the aspect just of someone like that with some size and some length that is proven and has the experience and now heads to join a group of other guys that, a combination of guys that have proven and also have some experience. And like we said, with some new studs coming into the mix as freshmen, you got a guy in Brazil returning who was, certainly heading towards an all SEC type season. And now you add all these pieces of the puzzle. And, if you look around, that Arkansas is still contacting other people because they are going to do that. That's how they work in the transfer portal. So who knows if there is more to come. I know you're like, surely they can't have any more spots available. Well, we'll find out. But for now, Muss has done a pretty tremendous job. Muss and his staff have done a pretty tremendous job of putting together this group because, as I always say, you don't know how everything's going to come together. But if we look at what they have and what the production has been from these guys they're bringing in, pretty intriguing heading into next season there for the Hawks. So there are more thoughts on SEC/Arkansas basketball transfers because it's pretty much split with both these days, it seems like. But all the other stuff we have here on the channel, I've done videos for every other transfer that Arkansas has landed in the transfer portal. Keon Minifield, Tremont Mark, Khalif Battle, Jeremiah Davenport. I've done videos on all of them, so be sure to check out the others as well, and transfer videos for all the other teams as well in the SEC. We've got it all covered here. So hit that subscribe button. SEC football and SEC baseball covered as well. So check it all out. Hit that like button. That helps us out too. And I know, like we always say, we really do appreciate you guys. We have a lot of Arkansas fans that have watched our stuff. You guys were kind of the first ones that carried the channel to new heights, a year or so ago. And so it's kind of always fun to talk Arkansas basketball. So we appreciate you guys as always, and a lot more to come here on the channel as we cover everything in the off season. So thanks as always for watching, and we'll talk to you again here soon at Southeastern 14.